To say that this YouTube creator thing has been an emotional journey so far for me would be kind of an understatement. So I'm a bit wary of making content on my channel that goes a bit too off-piste from what the channel's meant to be about, i.e. cars. But I've been doing this now for over 2 years. I've got 4,000 odd subs, which is absolutely nothing in the grander scheme of things. Subscribe. And I've also got 84 videos on my channel, which again isn't really that many for the amount of time I've been doing it, but I've got a day job. And yeah, I feel like this was maybe the right time to tell you a little bit more about my experience so far. You know, all the observations I've got, the learnings I've had, and just generally my thoughts on what it's like to be a car YouTube creator in 2025. But I want to make this fun, and I also want to keep it as related to car content as possible. So if that sounds good, don't forget to like and subscribe, otherwise buckle up and let's get into it. Thumbnails are way more important than I'd ever realized, and you know, they're the thing that people see on YouTube that draws them in to watch your video. And if you don't get your thumbnail right, you could have the best video in the world and nobody will watch it. And the thing is, there's a lot of science behind all this, but I also find it's a real source of creative turmoil for me, because there's only so many ways standing beside a car or in a car or taking pictures of a car that you can actually make a thumbnail about things like that without actually almost having to recycle some of the same words and facial expressions and stuff. I mean, a lot of people get accused of clickbait on YouTube, and I've seen other YouTubers that have been rinsed for it, and I've not really massively had that problem yet because I try to be as honest as I can, and sometimes you just get it wrong though. And like I've definitely misled a couple of people once before, and I've actually changed my thumbnail, and it's good that you can actually do that retrospectively, but I would never want to do that on purpose. But it's a real fine line you've got to walk between trying to draw people in enough that they actually, when they're scrolling, go, oh, that looks interesting, click on it, and then realize it's maybe a good video, versus actually doing something that's a bit too clickbaity and actually potentially puts people off, or they click away because they go, that video's not as described, you know? So it's a really tough one, but I really struggle with the cringe part of like, what do I do, and like, how do I make a new facial expression that I've not done before? And you see a lot of YouTubers, even Matt Watson does it, you know, going like this and like all that sort of stuff. I just find it a bit, I don't like doing it, but sometimes that's all you've got, you know. You've got to give a sort of emotive reaction in a snapshot along with maybe a picture of the car, and there's just only so many ways you can do that. So the whole thumbnail thing, super important, and I feel like it's a science I've not fully mastered yet, or that I have enough time to make them as amazing as they could be, but I also find it's a bit cringe. So this next point's an important one because it's been a hard one to take and to learn, but basically, the amount of effort you put into making a video, and no matter how good the video actually is in terms of production quality, does not necessarily equate to the most amount of views and traction. So I once made a video, and it was one of the ones I enjoyed making the most. It was also one of the most expensive videos I've made because it cost a fortune to insure it and to keep putting fuel in the car, which is the old Audi S8, the original S8. And I love that car, and I spent the whole day with it, and it's barely got 500 views on the channel even now. And yeah, it was like, oh my God, I thought that would do quite well. And it's not. I mean, it's an old car, so it's not one that people are searching, and maybe it's not as good a video as I thought it was, you know, but I really enjoyed making it. I put my heart and soul into it, and it got nowhere, you know. Whereas other videos where I basically have spent very little time having to prep for it, and then I've just sat in the car in the garden and spoke for half an hour or something, have ended up doing way better. Like, for example, my scam video where I nearly got scammed trying to sell my car, and I basically didn't expect this to do much at all, and it's got nearly 250,000 views. So the effort you put in does not equate to the views and traction and subscribers you get off the back of it. And certain buzzwords really are good for people to go, oh, scam, I better watch that. And other things, people just don't click, you know. And so sometimes, yeah, it might just be that the video you've made isn't as good as you thought it was, and sometimes it's just that the algorithm didn't really catch it and it got smothered, and nobody ever really sees it or knows about it. So for anybody looking to get into this space, that's definitely a key point to remember. Don't just assume because you worked really hard on a video, and even if it was a really fancy car or whatever, that's actually going to mean that it's going to take off. It might not. Certain car brands have way stronger followings than others, and that means potentially that if you make content about them, it'll do better in terms of views and stuff. But there's like a real fraternity with some car manufacturers like Volvo, Tesla, Range Rover. They're three I picked up on that seem to be like, there's really passionate people who know a lot about them. And the thing that comes with that is you better bloody know the car when you review it, because there will always be somebody who knows way more about it than you do and will absolutely go for you if you say something incorrect about the car. I'm always very humble when I get something wrong and will correct the record if I can, but there are certain cars out there where it's like, wow, there's a real kind of cult going on here behind this. And so yeah, it's kind of cool to see that, and it shows as well potentially that car's really got some emotive thing about it that makes you think, maybe I should own one of those sometime, you know. But then there's other cars that don't have that at all. For example, our Hyundai Santa Fe, we own that, and I've made a series talking about that car, and almost none of my videos on that get any views. So nobody's ever searching for it, nobody seems to care about that car. It's just one of those vanilla brands, obviously, that it's actually technically quite a good car, but nobody cares about it. Now, this next point can be relevant to not just car content creators, but the YouTube algorithm. What is it all about? I really do not understand it at all. And there's a lot of stuff that YouTube tries to tell you about how to get your videos to do better and all that. And then there's stuff that you read online and I'm going, I still just don't understand how any of this actually makes a difference one way or the other. There's just no real consistency in patterns I can draw from the stats from my videos that gives me any idea what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. I mean, some of my videos start quite slow and the curve then kind of picks up and gets steeper for views. And that suggests to me that as more people are getting to see it, it's maybe getting recommended more and more to YouTube, or more people are like, well, that's actually not a bad video, I'll share that with a friend or whatever, you know, and it picks up from there. And I've got loads of videos like that, particularly ones where I'm reviewing a car. But then, for example, ones where I'm doing my Tesla sort of series, loads of those ones seem to do so well initially. And the first couple of days, it's like, you know, 1,000 views a day or, you know, something like that. The curve is like that, it's going so well, and then it just drops off a cliff. It gets like 2,000 or 5,000 and it just stops. All of a sudden it's getting no views at all. And it's like, what is that all about? And if it's a video where I can see there's not a lot of likes or comments or interactions, I'm like, okay, I get that. That suggests my video's just not that good. But if it's a video where I can clearly see loads of people are engaging in the comments about it and it's getting quite decent average view duration and stuff, I'm going, clearly people are actually enjoying this video. So why is it not getting continually recommended by YouTube? And it's like, that's so frustrating. It just feels like without that sort of constant recommendation, people are just not getting my videos put in front of them. And I'm sure loads of creators have this problem. And a lot of the time it will be explainable by a reason I don't know. And it could just be my videos just aren't that good, you know, but sometimes I am just going, I do not understand how this works at all. And I'm not sure I ever will. I've just got to keep making content and trying to find out what works and what doesn't. But it's still a massive learning curve for me on that front. Another thing is YouTube apparently rewards consistency, and they clearly want you to be putting out at least a couple of videos a week before they really reward you for it. And I just kind of feel like it's really hard to meet those expectations with my lifestyle and the fact I've got a day job and a family, and I just can't keep up with that level of pressure that YouTube essentially wants from you to be able to give you that reward and, you know, recommend your videos more to grow a lot faster. I think you need to be putting out quite a few videos a week before you really get that back from YouTube. And yeah, I just can't do it right now in my circumstances. But it does feel a bit like YouTube are like the big tech thing is, let's give them a taste of success, you know, give them lots of views at the start, let them think that their video's doing really well, then just cut them off maybe, just so you go, oh, I better work a bit harder, you know, because I really want to keep feeding that dopamine addiction, and you just try and work harder. I'm like, I can't do it. I'm going to do things at my pace, and if it means my channel grows a bit slower, so be it. So the comment section can be really inspirational, and I've had a lot of amazing comments from people, and I'm like, when somebody leaves me a comment that's like an essay. I had one guy, he actually had to write it in different chunks. I think he reached the maximum character limit. And I go, somebody's taken the time to actually write all that to me, and I feel so chuffed by that. I'm like, I'm really touched by it. And yeah, the vast majority of comments I get are really positive, and people generally are really respectful. And if they disagree, generally they're respectful about it, and I appreciate that. But most people are really nice in the comments, more so than I thought they would be. And I was a bit worried about that when I first started, thinking, am I going to get loads and loads of people trolling me? But it's not been that bad. But there are exceptions. And the thing I find the most frustrating is when people say something like, and I've got some examples here, "You've lost me with these stupid comments. Do your research before you make videos like this. Goodbye." And it's like, okay, cool, bye. reply back, sorry, what comments? Please explain to me what I've said that's stupid or you don't agree with. Almost never do you get a reply. So it's like, what does that mean? I'm like I say, if somebody says I've said something wrong or stupid, let me know, and I'm humble enough to be able to admit I'm wrong. But when somebody just says that and doesn't give any context whatsoever and never bothers to follow up with a reply, I'm like, just go away. Honestly, I've got no time for that stuff. But then you get other people who basically just cancel you really quickly. And when I did the video which talked a bit about Elon Musk recently, I definitely got cancelled by a few people. And in some cases, again, it was like, you've lost me, goodbye. And I was like, okay, if people are that fickle that they unsubscribe over one video and me disagreeing on one thing, I'm like, that's fine. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Most people got the point. But then in other cases, you get people who are just horrible. They want to say something mean. And I had a guy basically saying to me, what was he said? 8 minutes in is all I could stand of this bell end. It's like, okay, you've called me a bell end. And when I went back and tried to speak to him, he actually came back to me, went back and forth for a while, and he started to sort of backtrack a little bit. And it was like, mate, you've lost the argument as soon as you called me a bell end. I'm like, if you just said anything else, I would have been okay with it, but you didn't. You've backed up your points thereafter. I still don't agree with you. I stand by everything I said. So that's fine. We can disagree on that. And you're obviously not getting that it's my opinion. So if it's different from your opinion, that doesn't mean that either of us are right or wrong. This is what a car review is. This is my take on it. Take it or leave it, And I've got no reason to lie. I don't want to make stuff up. Why would I do that? I've got nothing vested in doing that. So I'm always just saying what I think is right. And there are times where with the short time you've got a car, you maybe make an assessment of it that you actually maybe you've rushed into making, and that will happen. And all car YouTubers will probably do that. But when somebody says you're a bell end, and you go, yeah, but mate, that's insulting technically. No, I'm not actually insulted. I'm not laughing. I'm literally in the pub with me going, get a load of this guy, laughing about it. I don't care. But the fact is, you think I'm going to have an intelligent conversation with you after this, after you've called me that. I'm like, just go away. You just look like a complete numpty, Here's me calling him a numpty. But, I'm not interested in entertaining people that say stuff like that. And there are people out there that will just do that and get really angry about things that you're like, wow, that escalated quickly. Now, this is a point that's probably more relevant to where I live than other people around Britain. And sometimes I'm really jealous of other YouTubers and where they live, because it must be so much easier to get access to cars. And I live in the northeast of Scotland, and really we're so far up north that if I ever got big enough as a channel that manufacturers might actually send me their cars, the chances are they just won't do it anyway. So I don't really know how I would approach that situation if it ever gets to that point. But so far I've always been able to find somebody who's got a new car, a friend of a friend or whatever, and just basically review theirs. But yeah, at some point if the channel got big enough, I might be able to go to a dealership and be like, I've got 10,000 subs. Want to do a deal here, and see if they let me have their cars in return for a bit of PR or whatever. We'll see. Also, it works both ways, because in summer the days are super long, but in winter time the window for making a car review when I'm doing a full review is very short because of daylight hours, and so that brings in a lot of pressures and challenges, and the more pressure you're under, the more chance there is of making mistakes as well. And just generally speaking, the weather up here is just so crap a lot of the time that go make a video and it's like, oh, absolutely pushing it down again, great. And it's just kind of like you've got to change your whole plan, and you could say that's the same anywhere, but we get a lot of rain, and so it is just constant challenges with all that kind of stuff. So something else that's become very apparent, and particularly since I started reviewing EVs and then bought an EV, is how partisan the EV versus internal combustion engine purists are, and particularly how much the anti-EV crowd are really quite full on. And sometimes you're like, cheapers guys, take a day off. There's an awful lot of vitriol aimed at people with EVs, and I've had quite a lot of comments where I'm like, people just seem to take great pleasure in thinking that you've bought the wrong car and that you've bought a car that's going to be worth nothing in years to come in their eyes. And it's like, oh god, they've not watched my videos where I've talked about how I'm on a PCP, and so at the end of the 3 years I can just hand it back. They obviously don't understand that, and they make this point anyway. I mean, I got one comment, just one of many: congratulations, your car has lost more than 70% of its value. That emoji. It's just like, why do you take such great pleasure in telling me that? Like, I don't understand this, There's just an awful lot of spitefulness from people, and it's kind of sad. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is just how many people are actually doing this now online. There's a lot of them, and it gets to a point where you go, Why would you watch one channel over another, particularly when it comes to new cars, especially where a lot of the bigger channels get invited to, you know, Switzerland or Germany or whatever for the launch of a new car, and they all turn up and they get a small amount of time with the car to basically do their content, put it online, and ultimately it's all the same content from just a different presenter. And I kind of look at that and go, that's not good enough for me. You know, it's like all you're doing is just potentially regurgitating the new spec and saying what's changed in the new model or whatever. And I don't think that's not valuable information, but it's how do you stand out from that crowd, you know, when so many people are doing it? You know, I want to be offering something different. And the way I see it is I still don't really know, if I'm honest, which direction I want to take this channel. I've got some thoughts about different things I want to try, and I would love to do more of the sort of like day trip, like road trip type videos where I do a bit of a vlog along with it. But I also think humor really matters and just being entertaining, and I try to be entertaining in my videos a little bit, but there's limits to what you can do on your own with that compared to, you know, based on time or, you know, what limitations you've got. I mean, Matt Watson, he's got it all. He's got a film crew, he's getting access to the best cars, he's getting all the exclusive rights and all this stuff. It's a totally different game, you know, but in my position, I want to be just bringing something slightly different to the space, and the way I see it is the best way I can do that is just to try and be myself on the camera and to just bring my personality to it and hope my personality stands out from others. That sounds a bit kind of wishy-washy, but you know, I really want to try and be honest and raw and just say what I think, and it won't be for everybody. You know, some people, the minute you're too honest, they just bin you, and it's like, oh, well, it's fine. But if I stay true to myself and always say what I believe to be right, you just can't go that far wrong doing that. And ultimately, if I try and just be myself, then I'm always going to try and bring a bit of humor to what I'm saying, and hopefully that also stands out. And I'm not saying that if I got invited to Marbella to do a launch of a car, I'm going to be like, I'm not taking that, guys. You know, everybody else is doing it. It's not original enough. I will still go on that trip, you know, but I always want to try and bring something fresh to it. And I'm still kind of on that journey of figuring out exactly where the niche is and how I want to go. And feedback from, you know, viewers and subscribers is very welcome and appreciated for all that kind of stuff, but it is very much a journey. You know, that's what I'm saying. This is all a journey and I'm just getting started. But I'll finish by saying a massive thank you to all my subscribers and viewers and everybody who's interacted with my videos. And one of the things I think is always the coolest is when I see somebody having a conversation with another person in the comments off the back of my videos, and I go, that's so cool when people do that, even if it's, well, I'd rather it wasn't a negative one, but just the fact that I'm generating discussion. I love all that sort of stuff, you know. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, as I say, please do like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and join me on my journey with YouTube, and we'll see what comes next. I'll see you in the next one.